Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly why your traditional annual strategy planning cycle is, well, probably already obsolete, and how we can actually build a continuous operating system tailored for the AI era. Look, if you're an executive trying to navigate these rapid market shifts, you already know rigid, yearly plans just aren't cutting it anymore. You spend months building them, right, only for the market to completely pivot 3 weeks into Q1. So today, we're going to explore the mechanics of moving away from strategy as this top-down, episodic event and transforming it into a continuous, living system that actually adapts to the real world. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right into a pretty jarring reality. We've all been in those massive alignment sessions that just completely fall flat. If you're frustrated by OKRs failing or by teams who seemingly forget the strategic objectives literally days after you roll them out, you're definitely not alone. But what if the issue isn't actually that your teams can't execute? What if the real problem is that we are fundamentally measuring the wrong thing? For decades, we've treated strategy as a transmission problem, basically assuming that if we just communicate it better, maybe with a flashier all-hands meeting, it's going to arrive perfectly intact to the front lines. And that brings us to the core mystery we're solving today. What if you've been optimizing the absolutely wrong gap for decades? For years, management has been entirely obsessed with the strategy execution gap. You know the drill. We spend millions on internal comms, tighter alignment frameworks, increasingly rigorous goal cascading. But this approach treats strategy as a static package, hermetically sealed and delivered from above. We're going to reveal exactly why this top-down transmission model isn't just inefficient, it's actually setting your company up for structural failure. So the crucial point here is that our traditional metrics reflect this broken paradigm perfectly. Think about what we track most closely. Plan adherence, budget compliance, milestone completion. These are classic lagging indicators. They really only answer one very specific question. Did we do what we intended? But they completely fail to answer a much more important existential question, which is, should we still be doing it? Essentially, by relying on these metrics, you're just running quality control on the output of a static plan, rather than measuring your organization's actual real-time capacity to sense reality and adjust to it. And here is the terrifying consequence of leaning on those lagging metrics. When you strictly reward adherence to a plan, your organization is naturally going to optimize for the execution of an increasingly wrong plan. It's inevitable. Your speed of delivery might go way up, but your speed of correction plummets. It's like you're moving incredibly fast, but potentially right off a cliff. The environment changes, but your people are still locked into yesterday's slide deck because, let's face it, that is exactly what their bonuses are tied to, even if the market has totally shifted under their feet. So fixing this requires a fundamental mindset shift, which brings us to the OSW3 tripod. You have to realize that you don't just have one single corporate strategy. That's a total myth. You actually have 3 distinct strategies happening simultaneously at every single node, every team, every department, every integration point across your whole business. And the real kicker? These 3 strategies exist right now, whether you have the tools to read them or not. Let's break down the 3 elements of this tripod, because this is where things get really fascinating. First, you have the wished strategy. This is your declared intent, the official plan, the polished executive deck. Second, you have the real strategy. This is what your actual decisions, trade-offs, and resource flows reveal your team is actually doing, say on a random Tuesday afternoon. And third, and this is the golden nugget, the implied strategy. The implied strategy is the absolute smartest, viable move the situation currently affords you. It's that most favorable adjacent opportunity sitting right there in the tension between your everyday reality and your external constraints. Now, understanding this tripod gives us a totally new diagnostic tool. It forces us to shift our focus away from the classic planning gap. Now, the planning gap is just the difference between your wished strategy and your real strategy. It's a pseudo-certain exercise where management just tries to aggressively pull action back to some declared historical aspiration. But the real challenge, the gap that's actually going to define your company's survival, is the opportunity gap. This is the distance between your real strategy, meaning what you're doing right now, and your implied strategy, meaning the smartest move actually available to you in the present moment. And here's the hard truth. Closing that opportunity gap requires reading capacity, not just execution capacity. You cannot close this gap by simply executing harder, cracking the whip, or managing your timelines tighter. Think about it. The opportunity space is unbounded, and it's constantly shifting. Finding the smartest move requires your organization to become an exceptional, active reader of its own situation, sensing friction, picking up on subtle market shifts, and identifying new capabilities in real time. Managing by an absolute target just creates a dangerously narrow runway. Your implied strategy, your real opportunity out in the wild, is not a fixed destination. It's a traveling point. It moves constantly as the situation moves. If you're just blindly aiming at a flat, absolute target established 9 months ago, you are leaving massive amounts of value on the table. You just get lost in distraction and strategic drift. Strategy has to be the continuous practice of keeping your organization close to that moving opportunity line. So if the implied strategy is a traveling point, we have to throw out our old definitions of speed. Speed of execution is actually incredibly dangerous if you're running the wrong way. Speed of correction is the ultimate performance metric for the modern enterprise. An organization that reads reality continuously and corrects its course fast is going to radically, consistently outperform one that declares some supposedly brilliant strategy in January and then just blindly executes it for 12 months without ever looking out the window. Right. So how do we actually measure the speed of correction? We measure something called the delay of surprise. This is the time between a change in your market or operations becoming knowable and that insight becoming actionable in the exact right place within your company. Lower is always better here. Ask yourself right now, how fast does your specific organizational system realize that its underlying assumptions are totally wrong? Are you finding out in days, or are you waiting for the quarterly board meeting? To reduce that delay of surprise, we have to look at how teams actually talk about their work. At every node in your company, strategy is expressed in one of 3 modes. First is compliance. This is when a team says, hey, I'm delivering exactly what the plan asked of me. This is what companies safely, traditionally reward. Second is drift, where a team just describes their daily chaotic reality because the official plan became totally irrelevant months ago. But the third one is fascinating, defiant or black market. This is when a team is quietly doing what the situation actually demands, even though it's not officially sanctioned. I mean, think about it. How often do the actual problem solving and the best ideas happen in unauthorized Slack channels, entirely outside the official project management software? Your most valuable common sense often goes underground into this black market because the formal organization penalizes anything that deviates from the wished plan. To bring that underground black market of brilliant ideas into the light, we have to completely abandon the top-down rollout and embrace a middle-out approach. Middle-out is this generative layer where top-down executive intent and bottom-up lived experience continuously meet and integrate. Every single team holds a partial, highly situated piece of the overall strategy. The goal isn't to force them to match the executive deck perfectly. The goal is to create a continuous dialogue where their local, on-the-ground reality helps rapidly update the global strategy. And this brings us to where artificial intelligence actually fits into the boardroom, rather than just being a trendy buzzword. AI is not a magic strategy creator. Instead, think of AI more like an always-on software compiler. If your organization structures its work and intent clearly, AI can read that daily work, detect points of friction, compile insights across hundreds of different disconnected teams, and rapidly flag those tensions. It surfaces the opportunity gap at an enormous scale, giving you real-time visibility into exactly where your strategy is breaking down and where new opportunities are popping up. But there is a massive catch here. AI acts as a catalyst. Because AI amplifies whatever it encounters, applying it to a disconnected, messy, top-down organization is only going to accelerate noise, bureaucracy, and confusion. However, if you apply AI to a readable organization, one that's already structurally designed to constantly check its real strategy against its implied strategy, AI accelerates coherence. It completely collapses the cost of knowing what's going on and coordinating really complex responses. And this leads us to a really powerful realization. The primary challenge of AI-native operating models is not flow and scale. It's making yourself readable. To survive and thrive today, you don't need better annual offsites. You need a structurally fit organization. An organization that doesn't just dictate from the top down, but continuously, effortlessly surfaces what is already true on the ground. Organizational legibility is your absolute ultimate competitive advantage. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to look at your own operating system and ask yourself this final critical question. Are you building an organization worthy of the opportunity it is afforded? Are you merely forcing alignment to a static, aging plan? Or are you genuinely building a system capable of reading reality, minimizing the delay of surprise, and actively seizing its implied strategy every single day? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope this gives you a completely new lens for engineering your continuous operating system.